Armen Georgian joins us now from the Elysee Palace. Armen, I understand we're expecting to hear from President Macron a short time from now. What are we expecting him to say?
Well, we're expecting him to highlight just how much the international environment has deteriorated since this last conference of ambassadors was held 2 years ago. It's not just COVID that has changed the world, but of course the war in Ukraine, the tensions in the Indo-Pacific between the West and China, and France's changing position in Africa. That's been a big change over the last 2 years. France is arguably much more vulnerable and fragile, not just in the Sahel, but also in countries like Guinea and the Central African Republic. So Macron will be expected to address that issue, how to perhaps try to regain French influence in Africa, a continent where Russia and China are increasingly active and where French influence is arguably waning, certainly in some countries. So a lot of issues there on the agenda, and I think also it's going to be an opportunity for Macron to set out at least to hint at how he sees the future of what used to be called French strategic dialogue with Russia, which some observers have said has failed and has not achieved any tangible results during these last 6 months of war in Ukraine, except perhaps a kind of blowback where France has seen its influence actually reduced with some of its allies in Eastern Europe because of keeping up these contacts between President Macron and Putin. So I expect that President Macron will probably, in some way, address that question of how he sees future contacts with the Russian government proceeding.
Well, so French diplomats staged a strike at the beginning of the summer, as you're aware, over reforms to the public service. Is Macron expected to address that as well?
I would imagine he will almost certainly allude to that, and certainly the French Foreign Minister, Catherine Colonna, who gives her speech a day after Macron, so tomorrow, she will certainly be addressing this discontent in the foreign ministry. There was, as you mentioned, Monty, a very rare strike at the beginning of the summer of one day by diplomatic staff. It's rare because diplomats are really seen as part of the establishment, so for them to go on strike means something is very wrong. This reform of the diplomatic service would see, according to critics, essentially a reduction in the specialization, the ability of diplomats to specialize. They could become simply interchangeable with other civil servants, and obviously they don't like that. They believe that if you don't have specialists, then it means French diplomacy simply cannot take on these big, indeed huge international challenges that France is facing.
Okay, our international affairs editor, Armen Georgian, joining us from the Elysee Palace. Just